Hello, I am once again back with my shitty phone mic, and we're gonna talk about this Frankenstein drawing that I made as a part of the Monday Monster series. For this one, I did it in late October, I believe, and I sort of like the way that it turned out. At the time, I thought it was okay, and looking back on it, I think it was a bit less okay. But that's usually what happens, you know? It shows that I've improved, so I guess that's something. But with, like, the composition, I think, you know, is okay. It could be better. The colors for this one I struggled with, because unlike the last one, I tried to like push it more out of my comfort zone and not make it as monochromatic. And you can see me trying to figure out the sort of monochromatic color palette on the side there, and it didn't really work out. One thing that I think I did pull off pretty well though is the mirror. And sort of looking at that, I used Just Sketch Me and made those little what are they called? Mannequins? I don't feel like that's the right word for this. Mannequin references. And I really like the way that her character design came out. I think it looks really nice. But the rest of the drawing as a whole, I don't feel too strongly about. I didn't really know what to do for the color palette, and so I like used, you know, like pink, green, yellow, some blues, and they sort of go together, but not really. I feel like I could have picked, you know, a stronger primary color, and then a secondary color, and then a tertiary color, and then gone from there. I suppose green, you know, is the primary color, and then pink is the secondary color. But yeah, I feel like the color palette could have been a lot stronger. But going to the perspective, which is a thing that I think I did pretty good on this one, is basically you draw what you want it to look like first without, you know, a reference or perspective, and then you go from there and like add in like the rules of how things should look. Like you have to go in with just what you envision and what you imagine first, and then sort of change it to fit the rules, and then you change the rules to fit your imagination. So that's the order of the way that I do things in. You do things without rules, and then you change your imagination to fit the rules, and then you change the rules to fit your imagination. And then that way the, you know, sort of illustration looks correct, but it doesn't look too perfect, if that makes sense, because sometimes, you know, a line can look like too straight. Like if you're drawing a tree, you don't want it to be like a straight line. You want it to be like a bit curved and bent. Like with some of the posters, you know, they might have like wrinkles in them or something like that, since they're like pieces of paper. They're not going to be like perfectly flat and straight on the wall. And then, you know, the same thing for a bookshelf, like the wood might be like bent a little bit. It might be like an old bookcase that might have some water damage or something. You know, you want to like take those things into account when you're like making the perspective of something. You want to make sure that it's like stylized in a way where it like looks regular, but it still has like your specific style and flair to it, and your specific style might be like, you know, fuck perspective, and you know, do it completely disregarding what the perspective would be or look like, and that's super cool. I think that's pretty cash money of you to do so. This figurative you that I made up. Anyway, so this is sort of the color palette that I ended up with. It looks sort of dark and muddy, and looking at it now, I don't really like it. If you're trying to figure out color, you know, I would recommend like going off of like a color palette and then you know, going from there. And once you start like using color palettes that are already out there, you sort of start to get the feel of like what components like each color has and needs to bring to the table in order to have a color palette. The biggest thing, if you're trying to make your own and you're like really struggling, maybe start with 3 colors. You know, a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary color, and then go from there. Not necessarily like primary as in like red, and then secondary as in like purple, but you know what I mean, like in the hierarchy of like which one stands out more than the others. So then it might be like a red, and then white, and then black. You know, that's very simple. You know, very basic, but you can still do a lot with those colors. And it might be like where you need to start in order to get a color palette situated in regular. And so for this drawing in particular, I sort of wanted to make like a like sort of a gamer setup, since in the last one she just had a Switch and that's all you could see, and I wanted to make this one more have like a PC, and then like you can like see the bed, and then also like a vanity and stuff like that, and you can see on the shelf above her bed there's sort of like a bunch of video games or maybe like some manga. I don't know, you can't really see it from here, so it can be whatever you want. And then under her bed you can see there's like a box labeled spares, which is, you know, like her spare parts basically, because, you know, Frankenstein. And then I have the sort of like sewing box on the floor, and then you can see like bags and clothes and stuff like that. I didn't do sort of what I've done with like all of the other ones of like this series that I've done, where I have like a big pile of clothes in there. I just have like a couple of things, and I believe this is where I'm starting to do the line art. Super basic stuff. She's just, you know, doing her makeup, and then I have like, you know, makeup on the vanity, and then like I think I have a drink on there, yeah, just like sort of a fountain drink from like a fast food place that she went to, and then a couple of things on the wall. I feel like this one looks relatively plain compared to the other ones, especially compared to the vampire one, since that one had a bunch of stuff going on. I don't know, maybe I'm being too harsh on this illustration and myself, but you know, sometimes that happens. That's life. But a lot of things in the illustrations I sort of took from like my room and my surroundings. Like the bed that this Frankenstein girl has in this one was like my old childhood bed, you know, like one of those little like princessy beds. I didn't have the canopy, although like I really wanted one when I was little, and I thought it was the coolest thing, but I never had one, because I may have had like a tendency to set things on fire, but that's a completely different story. But the point is that like this bed was inspired by like my old childhood sort of princessy bed, and then the sewing kit on the floor that's in the shape of a heart is like the old little sewing kit that my mom has, and it was sort of like a heart-shaped wicker basket with like a white and red pattern fabric inside, and then it had like all of the sewing stuff she needed to hem some of her clothes, because like, you know, I'm relatively short, so that's something that needed to happen a lot, just like hemming the sleeves of things and stuff like that, or if like a button got loose, you know, just regular sewing stuff that you would have in a house. But that's what that looked like, and so then I just took that from you know, my experiences. And then the bookshelf in the vampire one, you know, was just like a plain bookshelf, but like I looked at my bookshelf for that, and like a couple of like the little like knickknacks and stuff that are on that bookshelf are either, you know, stuff that I found online, just scrolling through like vampire or like gothic knickknacks on like Pinterest or Google Image, and some of them are also like things that I have on like my little bookshelf, you know, just like a couple of like little glass trinkets and things like that. Or like I'm like, oh, I have this little glass frog, I might change that into like a little glass bat for like a vampire thing, you know. So just you know, take those things from like all around you if you want to do like sort of an environment that a person is in that like needs to feel like lived in. I would take, you know, things from like your room, or like one of your siblings, or like your parents' room, or your partner's room, or roommate. If your roommate has a really cool poster that you think this person would have, then use that poster, you know? If you have, you know, a mirror that you got at Walmart with like a cool frame, then use that. You know, if you're like, you know, I have a pile of yarn on my floor, which is something that I'm staring at right now, then you can put that like pile of yarn on the floor and then like have like some like crochet hooks like on like a little jar on their desk or something, you know, to make it feel like this is a space that a person occupies constantly, you know, instead of having it be like completely clean, you know. And there's nothing wrong with like a person in this world having a completely clean room, but you know, that fluctuates, and there are times when a clean room that's like always clean can be messy, you know, and having that sort of lived in feel, I think, really helps. But I don't think this one necessarily has that. Again, I'm ragging on this illustration. I feel like this isn't, there's so much white space in this one that doesn't feel like, obviously white space in design has its place, but this one just like, I guess the composition of it feels weird and off to me, and you can see me trying to figure out the colors. I think the colors are okay, not the best. Yeah, you can see like I have like green and pink and blue and blah, and like the gray with the pink sort of feels muddy. I might have done like some more pastel-y stuff. Like this person, I feel like would have had like pink walls instead of green walls, because you know, they are a relatively feminine person, and like maybe like with pink in the color palette there would be like a light whitish pink wall. I feel like that would make more sense. And then you can see right here where I'm putting down the shading, and it feels kind of muddy. And also, again, the same thing with the vampire one. I have no idea where this light source is coming from. Where is this light source coming from? I have no idea. Maybe that's why it feels so plain and muddy, like there's not enough contrast in the shadows and lights as well. I don't know. Yeah, but that's my thought process for this one. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble again. Yeah. Also, there's a Frankenstein poster and an Among Us poster, because this is a Frankenstein person and also a gamer, and those were the two touchstones that I connected them with, you know, which is pretty straightforward. There could have been more posters on the wall or something like that. I'm ragging on this illustration too much. This video is almost over. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye, you lovely human being. Thank you.